Hello and welcome to the latest of my Inside Tracks. Today I'm going to explore the incredibly exciting energies of the month of March. At present, Saturn and Pluto are getting all the headlines. Quite rightly, they're both moving into new homes and are both truly significant strategic influences. But Mars is set to be probably the principal player all this month. So I'm really excited to tell you about why that is. Also, Jupiter, the planet of growth, hope, optimism, good fortune, is forging a stunning alliance at the start of this month, but also at the end of the month too. We also have the spring equinox, which is going to see the beginning of Cardinal Quadrant 1, the first quarter of the new astrological year, which begins on the 20th. But then, almost immediately, we have an Aries new moon on the 21st, squaring up with Mars. Mars emerges from its post-retrograde shadow on the 15th. It sparkles with Venus in week 2, but it clashes with Neptune in weeks 2 and 3. So there's just so much to tell you about. If you are a returning viewer to my channel, it's great to have you with me once more. If you're new here, this is very much a community, so please do share any thoughts or insights you have. I do interact with each one. Please like the video, and it would be great if you would subscribe too. And if you would like to deepen your personal understanding of more serious astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of your personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can produce your life roadmap report together with your 12-month personal forecast, and in my special package there is 30% off. These will help you to gain a much greater and more intimate understanding of the patterns that have played out in your life so far, but also give you searing insights to what you can expect over the next year. If you don't know your time of birth, I have a new report, my solar character analysis, which you can also have a forecast with. Please see the link beneath the video for that too. So as we enter into the month of March, we have the Sun in Pisces, and we also have Neptune too, of course the co-ruler of this sign. So this is a very reflective energy, but despite that, Mercury, the planet of communication, is in the friendly networking sign of Aquarius. But you know, by the 2nd, it comes into an exact conjunction with Saturn. Now later that day on the 2nd, Mercury will be making its way into the sign of Pisces, where it is in detriment. But it's going to be moving at quite a pace this month, going through 3 signs, and will emerge into the go-getting sign of Aries on the 19th. But initially at the start of this month, it could see quite a serious conversation, or we may feel in some way a little bit inhibited about a future plan or our understanding of how we link to others. But of course also at the start of this month, there's an absolutely glorious link between Venus and Jupiter, the 2 planets of fortune, traditionally in astrology known as the lesser and greater benefit. And that goes through the first 6 days, but is exact on the 2nd. So that's a counterpoint for the more limiting and perhaps anxious creating energy of Mercury's combination with Saturn. Now in the sign of Aries, Venus is obviously technically in detriment, but I feel that this blend of energies at the start of this month does give us the opportunity to link with the right people, and that's the key. In fact, by week 2, Venus is forging a glorious link to Mars, and of course when these two are in simpatico, it can be very good for our social situations and also for our love lives. The energy of Venus in Aries is very go-getting. It's not going to sit on its proverbial laurel. So if there is something you want to achieve that's creative, imaginative, social or around a relationship, this is pushing us to take the first step ourselves. But Mars does remain in its post-retrograde shadow through to the 15th of this month, and it is going to be on the 15th when a lot of people are going to be flagging that this is going to solve all the issues that have been going on since the retrograde began on the 30th of October and ended on the 12th of January. I don't believe that's quite so, because in week 2 and week 3 of this month, Mars starts to reconfigure a right angle with Neptune that it was involved with right through October, November and the first week of December. And because Neptune's in house 12, and that can be to do with confusion, it can be to do with secrecy, can also be to do with betrayal, and Mars is to do in Gemini with how we think and act in a more instant way, because this is the planet of impulse, instant gratification. So I feel that there could be some confusion around communication with Mars in that right angle with Neptune, despite the fact that it does come out of its post-retrograde shadow. Now on the 7th we do have the full moon in Virgo. Every single year when this happens, it asks us to balance the practical physical reality of the very precise virtuous sign of Virgo with the more dreamy, drifting, ephemeral energies of the sign of Pisces. But in the mix this time is Mars. So Mars is being an aggravant here. It's in a T-square. It's a little bit broad, about 5 degrees. But the new moon, which occurred on the 27th of August in Virgo, was also square Mars. So Mars has been causing some mischief for some time. It is true on this particular full moon that Uranus pushes us to be more imaginative about creating a more holistic lifestyle for ourselves. So balancing the physical reality with the more spiritual dimension. And I think Uranus can be of a great help. But what Mars can do, because it is basically in an abrasive angle to both the position of the sun and the moon, is make people very impatient. So there could be quite a lot of criticism and some betrayals washing around through the 7th through to the 14th of this month. It is true that on the 7th, of course, Saturn does move into Pisces. It's going to be there initially for 2.25 years. If you've yet to see my deep dive on Saturn's journey through Pisces, please see the link below. This is going to be interesting. I feel that there's going to be a lot of pushback against some of the things that go on environmentally around water systems. So where big business abuses water systems with effluent and discharges, that's going to be one of the areas that we're going to see change in. Also, Saturn moving into Pisces, I feel will push us all to take more seriously Saturn, show more wisdom, Saturn, to our mental health. But on the 16th, Venus moves out of the sign of Aries and into the sign of Taurus, which it governs. This can be very good as far as a financial situation is concerned. It also forges a really nice link to Saturn. So if there is something that's manifesting that's positive, it can manifest in a very solid way. Unfortunately, Venus is also squaring with Pluto, and that can be more challenging. That can bring some politics. If there is a situation financially or romantically where we feel some charm is masking some leverage, we need to watch out for it. But on the 19th, Mercury bursts its way out of its journey through Pisces, where it is in detriment and it isn't at its most agile and sharp-eyed best, and moves into the sign of Aries. Very much about new beginnings, fresh starts, or injecting ongoing schemes with greater enthusiasm. The 20th sees the spring equinox. This is the start of the Western tropical astrological calendar, which is based on the 4 seasons. The sign of Aries, where the sun moves that day, is a cardinal sign. Each of the seasons guarded by a cardinal sign, a sign of leadership. So what we're being asked to do over the next 13 weeks is to show initiative, get on the front foot, But on the 21st, the new moon in Aries is challenged by a square to Mars, the ruler of the sign of Aries, which is late in the sky in Gemini, preparing to move into Cancer on the 25th. So this is a new moon that even if we do want to set our intentions, be bold, decisive and on the front foot, we can't be too impulsive, because especially around our desires, if they go counter to our more emotional needs, that could see us having to circle back and start again. On the 23rd, of course, Pluto does move into Aquarius for those short 11 weeks, and it does forge a quincunx, a 150-degree angle with Mars. And this is a very challenging influence indeed. Not good, I don't feel, for international affairs necessarily. But it is true that Mars moves on the 25th for the start of a 6-week journey into the sign of Cancer, a sign that it is technically in full in. So the reason for this is that Mars is about thrust. Obviously through its watery influence of Scorpio, it's about desire, but through its fiery influence through Aries, it's about instant moves. It's getting a hunch and going for it. So in the sign of Cancer, which is much more about thinking and feeling and nurture, Mars doesn't quite do it. But despite that, if you are a Cancer person, for example, you'd be mightily relieved that Mars is finally out of your 12th solar house. And it is the case that as we get into the last week, Mercury speeds up and forges a joyous link with Jupiter. At the start of the month, we had the two planets of fortune together. At the end of the month, it's Mercury's turn to align with Jupiter. This can be great for deals, great for getting new plans going, being very enthusiastic. So there is a lot of Aries thrust towards the end of this month, but you can see the planet Mars is actually going to be the most influential player this month by a long way over both Saturn and Pluto. Pluto, you can watch my deep dive video beneath this video, is only going to be in Aquarius for 11 weeks, 38 weeks in 24, and then from the end of 24 November it moves for a much longer stay into Aquarius. And this Aquarius age that's coming in, it's going to be a bit stop-start this year because it's going to be lingering for much of this year still in the late degrees of Capricorn. Now, to find out what all this means for your zodiac sign, please watch my in-depth forecast for each from Aries through to Pisces, which you can watch in terms of your sun or ascendant by clicking on the link beneath this video. But for now, thank you so much for joining me. Take care, all the best, and goodbye.